Hello, YouTube land. We are back. Episode number 7. We've got a way more full screen tonight than we did last week when Barrick and I were holding down the fort. But we could not be any more happy to be joined back by Mr. Kenny Swab, Drew Dole, Robbie Swab, and of course Barrick and I are back in the house. So, boys, how we doing? Glad to be back
Good.
in back in the real world, it seems.
Yeah, back in fantasy land here with you guys. Glad to be back. Everyone's safe, healthy, loving it.
Awesome.
Nice to have a full group, man. Nice to have a full group.
That's right.
But I will say
I
you
think-
guys did a fantastic job holding us down last
Absolutely.
week, so
Absolutely.
we appreciate that, boys.
Yeah.
Look, let's be honest. Nobody wants to watch the Backstreet Boys with only 2 of them. Everybody wants a full bit.
I don't know. Some of them went on to do pretty good things solo. I'm just saying.
Name one Backstreet Boy.
Yeah, I think NSYNC had a better
Next.
solo career. I think NSYNC had the better solo career.
I
with,
specifically
JP
used
coming out of there.
Backstreet Boys.
Nick Carter, right?
Default would have been
Nick Carter.
your
You're
default with NSYNC would have been Justin
I don't know,
Timberlake.
Drew. I don't know if I feel good that you know that or bad. I'm not sure about that.
Let's just
Well,
say it's
I-
a go-to karaoke every once in a while.
There you go.
I got it.
Been there.
I mean, Aaron, his brother may have done just a little bit better than he did on his solo career, but I don't know. We'll leave that up for debate on the interweb in the world there. So, as much fun as Barrick and I did have on Monday, we are super stoked to be back on Sunday, the regularly scheduled time, and to be joined, as Barrick said, by a full crew. We've got a pretty stacked agenda tonight. Some fun MLB stuff, some fun things happening around the league. First, we'll kind of just do a quick little recap. So last week we did launch a new segment that we're going to try to see if we can keep up the whole rest of this year. So far, we have not kept a segment going. This is going to be the first time we've done a segment back-to-back weeks, so we're pumped. But just to recap, last week, I put 25 stacks. I went hot out of the gate, and I had some high hopes for the Bravos, and boy, did that bite me in the butt this week. So I put 25 stacks. The Braves would win 4 games this week. They unfortunately split the 2-game series with the Red Sox, and then only took 1 from the Padres. So that one did not hit for me. Barrick, I believe 10 stacks, no more than 3 rainouts.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see a whole lot of rainouts this week. So did that?
I feel
hit?
good
I don't-
about winning. I feel good about winning that. Thank you for the droughts. I did an anti-rain dance, which thankfully keeps your clothes on versus the traditional one. So worked out good. Yeah, feeling
Very good.
rich.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, especially since, as we talked about last week, your poor Orioles getting rained out 2 days in a row, and then having to play a doubleheader on Sunday, and then closing out this, or no, on one game Sunday, a doubleheader on Monday, I think is how they played it. So.
You know, I take that. Apparently, Jesus isn't watching the Orioles because we're getting better. I think he did that rain out because he's like, I can't stand it anymore. I can't watch this. But we're getting better, Jesus.
There you
So let's
go.
take the rain away and let's keep this going.
There you go. I love it. And Drew actually slid into the DMs, we'll say, and slid in a nice little stack bet
His
there.
expertise.
So Drew, you wanna announce to the podcast what your stack bet was last week?
Yeah, I came in after listening on Monday and slid in with a give me Acuna with 3 or more home runs this week, and Joker hurt his groin and didn't play, so took a big L on that one.
Good news
If
is,
it-
though, he's still playing.
That's
it's
right.
Yes,
not
thank
the
God he is
worst.
still playing. He is
Yeah.
not on the IL. It's just day to day, but it
Yeah.
really bites you in the rear end when you go on one player and
Yeah.
he doesn't play.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
you'll not make that mistake again this week.
Yeah, I got
Or
one.
maybe he will.
Maybe I will. I got a good one this week. Everybody's going to enjoy that one.
Oh, too funny.
Can't wait.
Nah, but it was a good segment to kick off. I would say so far we do not have a proven track record to listen to us on any of our stack bets so far. If you are going to put out real money, except for Barrick. Except I will say I don't know what sports book you're going to have out there that's taking bets on random.
Oh man, listen, fan, let's get on
Jim
FanDuel. They'll do whatever
there you go.
Yeah, and just as a side note, this is not soliciting betting advice for anyone out there.
That's
Please
right.
do not take our advice.
But
that's why we're not using real money.
Yes.
So we will finish the last segment we will do tonight is we will do a little round robin of some other stack bets. So just to kind of give the update, so Barrick actually won 10 stacks, so he has 30 stacks carry over from last week. So he will enter tonight with 80 stacks total that he could wager if he so chooses. Drew lost his 10, so he carries 10 over to this week for a total of 60. And I unfortunately lost 25 and will only carry over 75 stacks this week. Kenny, Robbie, and Ryan, we let them go stagnant last week, so they carry over 50. And I don't know. Maybe we won't let them carry them over. I don't know. What's the rules going to be on that? So
yeah, no. Kenny, Robbie, and Ryan will have 50 stacks going into this week. The rest of you guys can carry yours over. It's our fault for not getting. It's or not. Either way you want to look at it. It's our fault for not getting our bets in. So
yeah, all good. There it is. 50 on the sticky note. So so we will close tonight's kind of podcast, and we'll do a round robin of stacks and see what we got going on. So in typical fashion, I think tonight, as we typically do, we like to kind of kick off a Braves recap, we'll call it. This one I'm not so excited about. Boy, it was a tough week. So anybody have any impending thoughts they would like to share from the week on the Bravos?
Yeah.
Catch the baseball.
What, six errors in the last 3 games?
Ron Washington's going to be busy soon.
Not a good look.
Because it's all infield play, so Ron Washington's going to be busy. And, he'll be all right, but that kind of sucks, man. Had games that definitely could have won and bite you in the rear end because you don't catch baseball.
Yeah, it's also not a great look when you have the same wins for a week that the Reds did. It's a pretty down week in my opinion. But yeah, the defense has got to get better. I just feel like we're in first or second gear right now. We haven't really kicked it into gear, and we need to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. I don't, and again, I think, Acuna, going down again this week, which was super sad news for the Braves lineup. I felt like Barrick and I chatted on Monday that we really felt like the lineup was starting to kind of gel a little bit. Him anchoring the top of the lineup seemed to kind of ignite a lot of, kind of cascading results throughout the whole lineup. So I felt like his presence was sorely missed in the lineup this week, specifically Wednesday, and then throughout the whole weekend. It was tough. Like, I felt like our starters did a very good job this week of keeping us in games. I actually pulled some starter stats just to kind of run through. And with the exception of Kyle Wright's start on Tuesday against the Red Sox, he went 4 2/3. He had 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts. The Braves went on to walk a total of 9 batters in that Red Sox game on Tuesday, and that goes through the same theme that we chatted a couple weeks ago, where the Braves giving up 6 or plus walks right now is pretty much a guaranteed L, which I think it probably is on most teams, but that seems to be the consistent, kind of piece. Ian Anderson went 5 1/3 on Wednesday, gave up 7 hits, 3 runs, only had 1 walk and 4 Ks. And then the weekend series, we had Fried, Morton, and Wright. Each of them went 6, with the exception of Kyle Wright today, went a 6 1/3. Fried got himself into some trouble, but was able to kind of escape. He had 9 hits, 4 runs, but he had 6 strikeouts. Morton looked really good yesterday in the wind. In the win against the Padres, it was the Braves' lone win this weekend, but he went 6, gave up 2 hits, only 1 run, 1 walk, but he had 9 Ks. So he had swing and miss stuff yesterday. So,
and he didn't even get the win.
No.
Yeah,
because of the other bad part.
Well,
which I think that was that was the other hard thing is Anderson, I believe, was the only starter this week that actually had a decision. No, Wright. He did take the loss on Tuesday. So Wright and Anderson got the decisions. Fried, Morton, and Wright this weekend against the Padres did not take a decision going 6 innings into a game, which that's tough when that happens.
Yeah, but
starting pitching hadn't been the problem. Starting pitching's been really good. Even in Kyle Wright's start, like, I know he gave up that 6 against the Red Sox. I know he gave up that 6-run inning, but he freaking calmed down and got him into the 5th inning and made it work, which is exactly what you need in those types of things.
Yeah.
Man, so the starting pitching has been really, really good. And Charlie Morton had looked really, really bad up until this week. And then the 2 starts he had this week looked awesome. Like, the curveball was back. He was 97, 96, 97. Ton of strikeouts, ton of swing and miss. That is a lot more. That's very hopeful, even in a bad week.
Absolutely.
Look at me, all Captain Positivity. I'm usually not like that.
I think I know the answer to this, but were you guys more? Was it more impressed with how the Padres looked this week, or more the Braves just gave it away?
The Braves gave it away.
That's what I kind of figured. But I would say it was a mix of both, in my opinion. I mean, the Padres hit the ball. I mean, watching the game last night, Friday night, excuse me, it honestly felt like even with Fried in the game, at any point in that game, the Padres hitters could get a hit. And that's not something that typically happens when Max Fried is on the mound. They just seemed really locked into him. But with that being said, the Braves, I mean, again, they committed, I think, 4 errors in the weekend series. And I just, it just did not look like good baseball through the weekend, in my opinion. So I think it's a mix. And the announcers today on Peacock, they, chatted that, I agree with this. The Braves and the Padres are a pretty evenly matched team. Offense for offense,
Well, that's kind of part of the reason I asked it was because, like, I feel like the Padres are kind of an interesting team. Like, they have all the makings to be really, really good, but are they going to put it all together?
Yeah. Well, and what's crazy is they're doing all this right now without Blake Snell, without a full healthy Mike Clevenger, and Fernando Tatis isn't back yet.
I was going to say,
that's what's scary about the whole thing. So,
and their manager's out too.
Yeah, and they're dealing with I don't want to say a backup. Ryan Christensen's a great manager, but
he is.
At the same time, he's not the guy that was hired to do the job. So, anyway,
I'll be honest with you. The one thing that scares me more than anything with the Padres is when Manny Machado walks to the plate. I swear that guy is going to hit the baseball hard.
Can we send him back to Baltimore?
Please.
I'll be honest with you. It feels like over the past few years when the Braves have played the Padres, Manny Machado's always done really well. I don't get a chance to watch him day in and day out, but whatever it is, he puts the ball in play or he's coming up in a big spot. That's the thing that I don't think the Braves have right now is there's not one person in the lineup that's like, well, I don't want to deal with that guy. Like,
we got to move on. This is hurting too much. Like, I still that wound hasn't healed yet. Like,
did Manny Machado used to play for the Orioles?
There's a reason he's the top guy.
Was he drafted and developed and brought up,
cultivated like a beautiful little sunflower, and then he sprouted, and they were like, "I'm gonna take your sunflower away from you."
Yeah.
That's because the Orioles aren't.
Right? His name was Manny.
Yeah. Well, the Orioles also weren't going to pay him $300+ million over 10 years either. So
they don't pay a whole team that. So
I don't even think their stadium is worth that, if we're being honest right now.
Is their franchise worth that?
Well, maybe.
I hope so.
I think the market is dictating that, I think, a little bit more than what the product on the field is probably right now.
Yeah, so. Good question.
But no, I mean, hopefully the Braves will bounce back. They do have a tough 6-game road trip this week. We are going to Milwaukee for 3, and then we have a day off on Thursday. before we then travel down to Miami and have a 3-game road set against Miami. And we all know that for whatever reason, the Marlins play the Braves very well. They have a very legit young pitching staff. So we will see. That is a series that the Braves desperately, I think, in my opinion, need to sweep. I believe if they could take 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee and then potentially somehow pull off a sweep and go 5-1 on the week, that would make me feel a lot better about where things are right now. But right now, that seems like a distant hope than it does anything. So,
well, yeah, I was going to say
we
need to.
You guys realize
you
if you go 4-3 every week, you're going to win 93 games.
Well, that's if you have 7. Yeah. Well, we got to win 4. We got to win
Right.
2 series.
No, I'm just saying. If you go 4-3 in a week, you'll win 97 games. Or 93 games.
It's fair.
Keep that in mind. Gotta
Well,
make it happen, Captain.
if you recall last week, I shared the pretty ridiculous statistic that before the Milwaukee series that just happened, the Braves had only won 1 series on the entire year, and they did take 2 out of 3 last weekend against Milwaukee. But now through this week, the Braves so far this year have still only won 2 series. They have either split it or lost it, and so that's not going to get you 93 wins. That's going to get you 81 wins and watching a 7-team playoff. Being on the outside looking in there. So,
well, I think we talked about this early on before the season. Was just we got to win series that we have to win, and Miami is one of those.
Yep.
And if you can take, like you're saying, it's a coin flip to win the Milwaukee series, but you've got to take 2 of 3 from Miami, and really at this point you got to take 3 of 3, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but
I agree. I agree.
Tell you what, though, Kyle Wright looked good today.
He did. He deserved to win that game.
But starting pitching, I'm not worried about. I mean, they're there. That doesn't bother me. It's the hitting and the defense that right now that is uber frustrating and needs to get corrected ASAP.
So I can't remember if this was on the agenda or not, but the Braves seem to be getting hammered by these new baseballs more than a lot of teams because they're a big-time home run strikeout team. There are a lot of balls getting to the track that are not getting out. Like the one that Arcia hit, the walk-off, like it looked like he crushed that, and it got a couple of feet over the fence.
2 rows deep or something,
I don't know if it's an approach change. I don't know if we're just going to be a huge strikeout team, but we got to start putting the ball in play and being able to kind of manufacture runs because honestly, the Padres did a better job of that. Like they took advantage of mistakes and put the ball in play and hit line drives all over the field. That Kim kid who plays for them, he's cool. He's a good player, and I really enjoyed watching him. As frustrating as that sounds.
Yeah,
I think the kind of jury's going to be out on these baseballs until probably the end of the season. Like you're going to have to look back on the entire season, just kind of do some analytical, look at it. Because I think everybody's trying to figure out what's going on, and so I think Robbie, that's a good point. But I think pretty much every team's probably asking that question.
The other thing I was going to say too is we have probably one of the bigger stadiums, if I'm not mistaken. You got to go up that huge wall in right center field. So any lefty that you got there, it's a bigger ballpark than most ballparks across Major League Baseball. So I mean, I think that plays a role into it too. You're now messing with the baseballs, and now we're in the ballpark, whereas other teams are not potentially. They're still 1 or 2 rows up versus 5 or 6.
Yeah. Well, and the humidity level in Atlanta is going to kill a lot of those balls during the summertime. So, I think when you factor all those things in, you very well could see a dip in the Braves, homers this year, which, like Robbie said, to his point, is going to be a little unfortunate for the way this team seems to be built. It's built with a lot of power in there, and so if the balls aren't leaving the yard, that's going to be tough. So
they'll figure it out.
Yeah, right? For sure. I do want to move on to the topic, but one thing I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on, I didn't put this on the agenda, but it kind of involves the Braves because we had 2 special broadcasts this week. What were your guys' kind of thoughts on the Apple broadcast on Friday and then specifically the Peacock one today? Real quick, I'll give just 2 cents on it. I actually loved them. I thought it was a refreshing look to see something different than ESPN and Fox, with their graphics and stuff. I hate that this morning I realized that I didn't have a Peacock Premium subscription, and I had to go in and literally drop the subscription to be able to watch the game today. But that's a rant for a different day again. So, but I enjoyed it.
At least you weren't blacked out.
Bingo.
I was gonna say I feel extremely bad for you guys because I get to watch all the games no matter what, no questions asked up here in DC. So, sorry, Scotty. I wish I could provide some more background to this, but yeah, it's great. YouTube TV is awesome. It's fantastic. Shows me what I need to see.
There you go.
I think like we kind of mentioned in the chat privately, I think Apple's going to do a good job with it, and I think I don't see any way that it's anything but beneficial for Major League Baseball because it's going to get, at the very least, you're going to get people that use Apple products that are just going to be scrolling through and see a game, available, and just kind of puts it more in the forefront of your mind. So I think it's smart for MLB to get in with not only Apple, they can get in with any of the big ones, Amazon, Google, whatever. I think it would be beneficial. So I think it's a big step.
I think the statistics on the bottom line, the probability of getting on base, the probability of striking out, was a really cool feature. Although it did keep me like, I kept trying to do the math in my head, and then I kept on rooting for the opposite. So like, probability of getting on base, 46%. I'm like, nah, this guy's not getting on base. I hope this guy doesn't get on base.
Yeah.
Just to mess with their number, or this guy's got a 36% of striking out. It's 0-2, and I'm like, you can do it, buddy. Put the ball in play. You can do it. Didn't matter who it was.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we talked earlier in one of our first few episodes that we did for this thing was we talked about how can the MLB make games more interactive. And as sports betting continues to be something that gets more out there, Robbie, I think that's a great point. Like, how easy would it be to have up like a FanDuel or a DraftKings, account and be like, the line right now is 46% that he's going to get on base. And it's like, nah, he ain't getting on base right now. And then live bet that at bat right there. Like, that would make the game much more entertaining, and I think get some of these people off the soapbox that the games last too long because people would be enjoying the fact that they're watching something live and on a product. So
yeah, the live betting is going to be a unique aspect that they keep intertwining with all sports, and I think that was just the first step to making that happen.
For sure. And apparently Apple was using some kind of crazy good camera because I had the broadcast up and Elizabeth happened to just catch it, and she was like, is this picture clearer than it normally is? Because like everything looks like pristine. And I was like, I mean, it's Apple, so they must be putting something out there. And, I'm waiting for the advertisement next year when they say like, we broadcast all the MLB games last year on iPhone 13 Pros. But
buy one now.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. So
product integration. That's the
right.
Business term you're looking for.
Oh, too good. So our last recap here, as we normally do every show, we're going to keep it somewhat positive this week, I think, still. So I didn't put a bad tagline up here. So just we'll kick it over to Barrick for Orioles Talk and get a feel for where he's at this week.
We started out pretty good. Kind of ended on a sour note with Detroit. I think we got swept by Detroit, and
Yep.
that was not good because that was definitely not a team that we should be swept by. But I think it started out nice. I think we're still trending upwards. I think that the Adley Rutschman clock is ticking. I think we're going to see him very soon, definitely by the end of the month. Maybe a week or so from now. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I think once he comes up, if he doesn't bomb, I think a lot of the other guys are going to be right behind him. Grayson Rodriguez. Connor Norby is obviously going to be starting very soon. Per Robbie's
no, he's not. He's not. He's out right now, by the way.
Oh boy.
It's just mental health day.
No, it's not. I'll go into that in a minute. Go ahead, Barrett.
So yeah, I think we're, like I said, I think we're trending up. I think they're playing pretty good. It's semi competitive, and basically to sum up from last week, I think we're still just slowly creeping up. We are getting some good production from. I think Mountcastle is still playing really good. Mancini's starting to pick it up, which is nice. So yeah, I mean, just if we can keep this kind of like production for the rest of the year, I'd be over the moon. So yeah, not a terrible week. Not a terrible week.
Yeah, for sure. Anybody else have some Orioles
So what's up
talk?
with Connor? What's going on?
Yeah.
Tuesday night, took a 93-mile-an-hour fastball right to here.
Oh boy.
Shattered his helmet. He was. I texted him Tuesday after we got done playing. He's okay. He's doing well, and then he's on the IL right now for other reasons. So
I got you. Well, he's got some time. We don't. He wasn't expected to be up.
He's a little upset because he felt like he was pretty locked in right at that moment in time too. So, but speedy recovery for him, and hopefully he gets back and hopefully he's up in AA sooner than later and moving on up.
Yeah.
And I think Adley's going to be up there sooner than later. He may be up there for the Yankees this week. I don't know, but
maybe. I think the farm system's been a lot of fun to watch too. I mean, not that that's the main attraction by any stretch, but they've got a lot of good talent that's been.
It has been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe like last year, if you take the farm system and play them against the big league team, be competitive.
Hey, I wouldn't put it past them. I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Adley's hitting a cool 304 in AAA, so it won't be long.
Yeah.
Well, they just what I read, they just wanted to see him catch a couple games back to back, just to make sure that he's conditioning from rehab is up. So yeah, it should be soon.
Well, and to my point last week, unfortunately, Robinson Chirinos is not doing himself any favors in that catching role on the big team right now either. He's had a rough start to the season. I don't know how he fared this week, but last week he was sitting at a measly 140. So that's
still not great this week. They're actually playing Ben Boom a little bit more, which makes me happy because I love saying his name. But I think
I would love to hear some of those announcers be saying it every time too, just fumbling.
Yeah, Ben Boom, 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 boom. But I think the best thing is everybody was expecting those two guys just to keep the seat warm for Rushman, and I think they've done that for the most part. So if we hold on to Ben Boom and we hold on to Santander, I think we'll have a great name team personally.
There you go. Too good. Well, I'm not going to give away too many spoilers for some later segments, but the Orioles do have a pretty tough week this week. No off days, 4 at home against the Yankees, and then 3 at home against the Rays. We'll see what happens come next Sunday when we're having this conversation.
It might be a different tune, but maybe not. Maybe this is where we just really break through and we're like, hey, contenders.
Yeah.
Tenders.
That's right.
With the
top 10 draft pick, yes.
If that happens, I will eat a plate of chicken tenders while we're doing this next week. Just
Interesting.
Yes, contenders, baby.
Yeah, interesting. All right.
Rob, are you willing to put stacks on that? We're going to find out, aren't we?
Yeah.
Doubtful.
It might be a little salt dribble on there.
Just you wait. Yeah.
I tell you, if this podcast is good at anything, it's probably teasing future topics for us to discuss that we ultimately will then may or may not ever get to. So.
It's okay. Whatever.
That's how you keep people coming back. Just
That's right.
Throw that bait.
Got her.
Yeah, we said we were going to have a pro baseball player on here, and that's happening well.
Yeah,
Scotty,
Ryan.
I think
Ryan's a little busy.
Yeah, a little busy. It's true. He's got a day job.
I think we needed to give 2 minutes every podcast to a Connor Norby update for Drew. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
He would love
that.
He loves social media. Next time we do it, we can do that. I'll tag him. It's like, hey,
Yes,
we're going to give a 2-minute update on you, dude.
Yeah.
There you go.
Maybe he'll chime in.
Why don't you just have him call in?
I was
gonna say,
because I have to go through Orioles PR to make sure he can interview on us. That's why.
Oh,
I got you. No worries.
Let's do it, man. We're big players, Drew. We can do it.
In typical first to third fashion, Connor Norby on the podcast at some point, maybe in the future.
Yes.
Hey, Robbie was a former employee. Come on, he could just pull some strings. I mean,
a former employee of who, Barry?
The Orioles. Cal Ripken.
No.
Come on.
Those are not the same organization.
Yeah.
It's basically
I think Cal could turn a lot of things around, but currently he does not have ownership stake in the Orioles. So
tomato.
Not the same thing.
Well, Kenny, you want to tee us up for our next topic of just kind of open MLB news? Any
sure.
Any fun stories you want to share from the week?
Yeah, I thought, to be honest with you, the most interesting one to me, or one of the most interesting ones, Kumar Rocker signed a Frontier League contract. For those of you who don't know, he was drafted last year by the Mets, 10th overall, is that right?
Yep.
And did not sign, and so is actually going to play. He just signed a Frontier League contract that will run to the draft this year. Is June or July 17th? July 17th.
Super late this year.
July, I think it's 16 and 17.
So it honestly made me think a little bit about, is this an interesting step that guys might start taking? I mean, you're just kind of hanging out, I'm sure, for the year, and getting ready to play, kind of training, do whatever. But it's an interesting step. We'll see what happens. I don't know a lot of the stuff behind why he did not sign, but
medicals.
It's just an interesting story and an interesting thought process to how this may or may not come about moving forward.
I don't think it was, from what I read, it wasn't that he didn't sign. He wasn't even offered the contract, right? Because they deemed something medical with his shoulder, I think, that wasn't right. So they were like, yeah, never mind.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it also lends the question of, if somebody can do that now and you're a legit player, can you, go to a junior college, play a year, play 2 years, you can get drafted after junior college season anyways, but let's say you go to college for 2 years. Do you come sit out and go play against some better competition? I don't know. There's just a lot of questions that I think may or may not happen. Probably won't, but it's just an interesting thought.
Think of how disappointing that has to be for him. Just to know that you have the whole year. I know he's staying in shape and working out and all that good stuff, but you think you got drafted, you think you're going to be, starting your MLB career, and they're like, nah, just kidding, you got a year off.
Yeah.
So, out of curiosity, and I hand up, I should have probably done a little more research on this. Did he make the decision not to go back to Vanderbilt, or was he not able to due to eligibility issues with the NCAA?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I do not know the answer to that.
I think he made that decision not to.
Okay. Which I guess it kind of makes sense, but I was just curious what kind of the rule was in on that. But I agree with you, Kenny. I hadn't even really thought about the ramifications that could have on future. Think about a kid in high school who maybe he's a solid prospect, 5 to 10, 5th to 10th round. What upside is there really for him to go and sit in a Division I school for 3 full seasons? So maybe he just trains and works out with professional developers in the fall, and then signs, a professional development league type, deal for the first half of the season, first half of that spring season, and performs well, puts up some numbers against some other pro caliber players, and then improves that draft stock up. Because at that point, really, what does the junior college level offer him? other than potentially getting a degree. Like we're not talking about education at this point, but
sure. Well, yeah, and then the other piece of this is, and legally I don't know if you can do this, but all right, let's say I'm the Mets and I want to draft some kid out of high school. Well, I'm not going to sign you per se, but let's have you go play in a Frontier League for a year, and then I'll draft you next year with a pick. Let's give you a year of development, see what that looks like. We'll set this whole thing in motion, kind of similar to what we saw with I forget the terminology, but it was
draft and follow.
Draft and follow. Thank you.
And that is back. That is back.
So it's like, you
can go to junior college and they can follow you, and before the next draft they can sign you.
Yep. So,
that is back in play now.
You now start putting this back in play. Now your guys, instead of going to junior college, now they can go play professionally, get some ABs, see how your development is, get paid. You don't have to go to college and sit there for 3 years like you're having to do right now. So,
there's options.
Man, we could go. Man, that's a whole tangent we could go off on.
Yes, it is.
I mean, maybe we'll tee that up maybe next week for a deeper dive, because I know there's some other things we want to get to. But man, that's good insight, Kenny. Because like I said, I hadn't even really thought about that. I was just like, good for this guy. Go get some live innings in. Show that your arm is healthy.
And
get drafted in that top. So
he's not the first guy to do it either.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's happening in other sports too. I mean, football, you're seeing it with people opting out of bowl games, and there's already talk about, is it worth playing a year if you're looking at being a top. I mean, look at the guys. Justin Jefferson for LSU that set up the whole year due to COVID. He was just like, screw it. He ends up doing perfectly fine in the NFL. So I think you're gonna see a lot of that, unfortunately.
Yeah. So it's definitely an open-ended topic for me. But I'll get to some more. We did have quite a week in baseball. Third cycle for our boy Christian Yellich, who the Braves get to see this week.
Oh boy!
Yay! And then Reid Detmers threw a no-no this week. We almost had a second one.
Well, we did.
Well, we did, but it's not an actual no-hitter. But
a no-hitter with an L.
That stinks. But yeah, what a great week for baseball. Kind of fun to see that happen. And so there's some of your MLB news for the week.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything MLB news-wise that they wanted to add in that I may have missed?
Well, you took kind of the good stuff. Maybe I'll chime in with some of the bad stuff a little bit. So Bryce Harper diagnosed with a partially torn UCL in his elbow. That'll be a little tough for him.
Can it get worse for the Phillies right there? I mean,
yeah. He has stepped in well to the DH role, which the Phillies are saying a lot of prayers for that this week, of just the fact that that's now in the NL, and they're not just having to sit Bryce. I mean, because think about that for the Phillies and how detrimental that would be. It'll be interesting. Again, this is where having some, thankfully, I guess in my life I dealt with shoulder injuries and not an elbow injury, but it would be interesting how that affects hitting. I know you don't have a lot going on in your elbow, but that is his lead elbow, so I would think it would have something possibly to do with extension, maybe. I don't know.
It can't be non-existent. There's got to be something there, regardless of whether he's going to admit that or not. It's there somewhat, for sure.
For sure. So, and then Clayton Kershaw, also on the injured list now with inflammation in his hip SI joint. So that's pretty tough news for him. He was off to a great start to the season. But again, that's a couple teams that obviously this podcast doesn't necessarily root a ton for. So it's not we're not going to cry ourselves to sleep over it. But for those fan bases and the MLB in general, I mean, again, anytime some top talent goes down, it's not super great. But
the one with Kershaw takes you back to beginning of the year.
Yep.
Should have just let him keep going.
Yep.
I mean,
you never know.
Now he's got a hip injury. Should you have kept him going? Who knows?
Yes. Yeah. And then just a little Braves farm system nugget that's been going around on social media this week. Michael Harris II, currently riding, and I don't know as of this podcast if he continued that, but as of yesterday, 30-game on-base streak. So he's doing big things. I'm interested if maybe he will come back or be brought up at some point this year. The outfield, situation being what it is, Demerit has come in and provided some solid at bats and some fielding here, but it'd be interesting to see what his upside is, at the big league level at some point here. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sweet. Anybody else got anything before we move on? Great. Good, grand.
No Michael Harris play today, so there you go.
Yeah, I was trying to look that up quickly. Thank you, Drew.
Yes, sir. I know what you were doing.
The Reds being the Reds. We got a two-win week. They have a no-hitter and a second no-hitter that doesn't count as no-hitter. I mean, gosh, I don't even know what to say. I don't know if anybody saw this. I think MLB tweeted this out with a kind of like levels, like a pyramid of where teams fit in, who's at the top, who's at the bottom. The Reds had their own category, and then they pulled this off for the week and kind of just are the Reds. But pretty sweet to see a no-hitter. I know that's always sick. So thoughts on that, guys?
They're lining themselves up for a nice pick next year.
Yeah, for sure.
Eric, you're good, man. You're not going to have the number one pick.
It's going to be weird. Like I'm so used to tuning in, immediately having to pick, and then being like, all right, we're good. But
yeah,
wait a couple picks.
on that topic, and I wish Ryan were here to talk a little bit about this. Do you feel that guys in the big leagues start to get that inkling, and especially GMs, and they're like, hey, man, we're battling for the last spot and the first pick of the draft. Do we want to take advantage of that and try to bomb? And or do you feel that is something that goes on? I never really heard much about it, but could definitely see it being something that's thought about.
I think that's more of a football thing as opposed to a baseball thing because of how far removed those players are from making an impact on the big league team. I mean, I have no experience in professional baseball, but at the same time, there's a ton of money on the line, arbitration, different types of things for every player. I find it I can't imagine that would come into a team's clubhouse, even if they're like about to staring down the barrel of a 100-loss season. I mean, there's millions of dollars on the line for a lot of these players, even on bad teams, to worry about whether you're going to get the first, second, or third pick for a guy you probably wouldn't play with and a guy that probably won't make the majors for best case scenario 18 months to 2 years. Maybe. So,
yeah.
Unless you're a college arm.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, I think that it might set up for the situation, and if the situation arises, that you can have somebody that's valuable to the team in 12 months, maybe less.
Like a Garrett Kershaw.
Yeah.
That would be this year's, Ben Joyce?
Yeah. I mean, you talking about the kid from Tennessee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he comes out. I don't know many guys. I mean, I played in single A. Like, I don't know many guys that would touch 105. And you put him right up in the big leagues. I mean, we've seen how good Chapman is. You put this guy in the league, he's going to be valuable to your team regardless.
Yeah.
So,
wouldn't that make a little more sense for a team that was competing though?
True. Yeah. And I don't think he'll go 1 overall, but I guess
he's going to be in middle of the pack to late first round, I believe, from what I've seen. So, I mean, those are your guys that are contending.
Right.
So,
I mean, like, if the Braves pick him up, like, that'd be a solid, like, postseason run arm to have in the bullpen, right? Like,
yeah, but we gotta win series first.
Yeah, that's true.
Win some series.
But yeah, so go ahead, Scotty.
I was just going to say, I did look it up just out of curiosity because I just felt like I had never heard of this happening, the whole losing a no-hit effort. And apparently
it's been a while.
This has happened 9 times before. I think today marks Nope, that's including today. So that is wild to me that's happened that often. It looks like the last time it happened was the Los Angeles Angels and Jared Weaver and Jose Arredondo no-hit the Dodgers. But Matt Kemp reached on an error, stole second, advanced to third on another error, and then scored on a sacrifice fly. And the Dodgers won 1-0. So
most of those are 1-0 games.
The fact that Cincinnati lost to Pittsburgh too is just is sold the wound. I mean, that makes it even worse.
It's like bottom of the barrel right there.
But with that said, a bright spot for the Reds being the Reds. Hunter Green looks like he is a legit arm, and his stuff I think will play for a long time in this league. I hate that he gets. It's not his fault, especially now because the pitchers don't hit. But
somebody's going to trade for him.
He did his job.
He's not going to be a Red for much longer.
No, somebody's going to trade for him.
Yeah.
And the Reds will take prospects all day long, and they'll trade for Hunter Green.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way, he probably could hit because he was a big old shortstop when he was drafted. He could probably do it.
Yeah. He could probably lay it down pretty good. So
for sure.
Oh boy.
Cool.
Hunter Green, come on the podcast. We'd love to talk to you.
Yeah. Shout out, Hunter.
Just for those of you who don't know, we're going to move to talking about catchers. You have 3 catchers amongst us. Myself, my brother Robbie, and Drew. We all caught at some point in our careers. I'm going to leave the floor up to you guys first. I have some thoughts on this. I'll get into it. What are your thoughts on the catchers, the new kind of leg out to the side catching style? Love to hear
excited to hear this.
and by any means, I'm not throwing Scotty and Barrick out that they can't say anything. Nope. But
I might go try the position right now, just see how it feels.
Stretch it out first.
How's your hip flexibility, Barrick? How's that work for you?
We're about to find out. If I don't come back on, I'm on the floor.
Yeah. But Drew, what do you think? Or Robbie, what do you think?
Go ahead, Rob. Or is Rob frozen?
I think it's fine if there's nobody on base.
Correct.
I think it's totally fine if there's nobody on base, but if it prevents you from catching, you're facing guys who are throwing upper 80s sliders. You're facing guys who are doing things with the baseball they've never done before, and it is insane that we have catchers who are on a knee when there's runners on base or with 2 strikes. I can't. The lateral movement, the lack of control. I think being on one knee is fine, but if you can't make the transition from there to a runners on base or runners with 2 strikes, you're losing so much of the ability to stop the baseball at minimal added value of catching a pitch. But that's probably not backed up by analytics or data.
There you go.
It's just
that's why
I know that everybody gets frustrated when a catcher is on one knee and can't block a ball that's in between him and the hitter with a runner on second base.
Yeah, so Drew, you just mentioned the data, and Robbie, you mentioned it, the data and analytics part. Can you elaborate on that so people understand what we're talking about when we talk about it?
They think there's more runs saved by framing pitches versus blocking balls and throwing runners out because your catcher is going to steal strikes. Obviously, we see that with umpires every single day, that the more strikes you steal, the more runs you're going to save versus blocking a baseball versus throwing runners out, even though those are most important things in the game that Robbie and I coach. Receiving is important, but at the end of the day, in high school baseball, if you can't block the ball or you can't throw somebody out, none of it really matters anyways. Receiving is big, and stealing strikes is big, but it's even bigger in the big league game because you've got, like Robbie said, people throwing ungodly hard, ungodly breaking stuff. If you can catch it and frame it, it's going to appeal to the umpire, which is going to eventually save runs. And your catchers also want to save their legs because a lot of these teams are relying on their catchers to hit.
Yep.
So one knee, right? One knee saves your legs. It does. And I'm like Robbie. I tell our guys, if you want to get on one knee to steal strikes with nobody on, perfectly fine. But 2 strikes, runners on. Sorry, we got to be up because blocking the baseball is valuable. Our pitchers got to be able to spike a breaking ball, and if our pitchers don't have the confidence to spike a breaking ball with 2 strikes, and we start hanging breaking balls with 2 strikes, I'm going to be really upset with you as the catcher.
Sure.
Well, and to like the layman non-catcher, kind of perspective, like blocking seems to be uber important. But then you also got like you're talking about like the quote unquote advantage to framing pitches. Isn't that really dependent on the umpire that you're working with too? So like
Correct.
That would be a really inconsistent advantage that you're trying to take advantage of, and that doesn't seem like that's going to be worth much.
But just like analytics on hitters, pitchers, and everything, there's analytics on umpires. So you know what umpires you're going to be able to get with, and that's why the catchers are big on hey, we know Angel Hernandez is going to give this much off the plate, so if we can frame this pitch, we're going to get a strike off of it. Now we're saving runs, and that's big. Or, Joe West is going to call a ball on the plate, a ball, just because this dude's a rookie on the mound, but I'm not going to get that pitch.
Yeah.
Or I got a veteran on the mound with Joe West.
They're basically doing so they're doing the framing based on, the
umpire analytics, right.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
And the only reason I know that is because Ryan would tell me, hey, we know umpires, their tendencies as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's big, as a catcher
think Drew
too.
Also.
Go ahead, Rob.
Drew also touched on one other thing, and I think is even more important than the strike stealing, because I've caught guys throwing 95. We all have caught guys throwing that way. I never felt like I couldn't handle the ball in a regular catcher stance. I think the fact that they're catching 100 to 120, 140 games a year and expecting to be able to hit, I think the keeping them healthy, keeping them fresh, I think they're kind of doing the mental math on that and saying we're going to save these guys' legs, and if we lose a couple of balls in the dirt, we'll sacrifice that to have Adley Rutschman being able to hit really, really well down the stretch in August and September.
Or Adley Rutschman can hit a 2-run home run and save that pitch.
Correct. So with the way that the catcher's position, the value has changed. They're putting more weighted emphasis on the ability to produce offensively. I mean, shoot, Travis d'Arnaud hit 3rd in one of the lineups this week for the Braves. And Brian Snitker has never used a second catcher in the same game in the same starting lineup. Now he's got William Contreras hitting, and so I think the offensive part of the catchers is a really big reason as to why we're seeing it, because the guys who were starting it at the beginning were like Real Muto, guys who are a little bit more offensive catchers. Salvador Perez, another offensive catcher, who is a guy who started doing this first. So I think the offensive piece and keeping the legs fresh and not wearing those guys out is the biggest reason why you're seeing it.
But as you do this more, people adapt to it as well. And like you talk about Salvador Perez, I've watched his stuff, what he does in the off season, and those guys that are catching one knee all the time and can block on one knee and can throw people out on one knee, they have ungodly hip flexibility, and that's the reason they're able to do that. Obviously, they're outstanding athletes as well, but they have great hip flexibility to be able to do the things they do, and they've caught and they've perfected their craft so well. And I think since they can actually perfect their craft and they work on it so much, they can do it. But your below average major league catchers, typically why like a Gary Sanchez got harped on so much was he wasn't very good at receiving, and then putting him on one knee made him even worse, even though he's trying to shrink down and be able to umpire to be able to see. and steal pitches, but it just made him worse. So I don't know. That's just my perspective of it. Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, so you bring up a great point. So here, a couple things that I've told guys, because I've been asked this, and working with some high school kids up here, they need to learn the fundamentals first off. And learning the fundamental, that is not a fundamental to catching, in my opinion. The fundamentals of catching are being up on 2 feet, being able to get down to the ball and block a ball in the dirt, keep it in front of you no matter what. Second thing, you talked a little, you hit a little bit on it with these guys having perfected their craft and becoming so good at what they do that they can get away with that. Well, it goes the same way for the pitchers. In high school, where do kids miss? They miss all over the place. There are not many kids in high school baseball, or even college baseball for that matter, that know where their misses are going to be and that they're not so outside the box that you don't need to move more than the body's width, left or right, to block a baseball. When you get to the major leagues, even in the minor leagues, a lot of these guys have perfected their craft that you don't have to necessarily move that much. And I'll be quite frank with you. You throw a slider in the dirt in front of you, 20 times out of 20, a guy in the major leagues, even if it's an average catcher, he's going to be able to keep that ball in front of him. Now, whether he can get up and has the hip flexibility to get up and throw somebody out, that's a different story. But to be able to keep the ball directly in front of you, there's two sides to it. The catchers at the big league level have the ability to do that, and the pitchers, their misses are so small and narrow, they're not having to move the catchers left and right that much. So that's my opinion. I don't mind seeing it. It's fine with me. If you want to get low in the big league level and do that, by all means. Especially if you got Angel Hernandez behind the plate, you might get one that's in the left or right-handed batter's box and called a strike. So it's fine with me. But I don't like how the youth of this game have transformed that, and that's their new catching style, if you will. I don't like that. It takes away
the youths, man. The youths.
So.
At least though, with the youth part about this with catching, is that they're actually watching Major League Baseball to be able to do that. So that's a positive thing on that part. But like Kenny said, man, you got to learn how to catch on 2 feet before you can get down to one. It's like the reverse of walking and crawling.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess my only question is, I certainly get the point you guys are making in terms of offense being much more of the push and that kind of stuff. But I guess like you're still seeing this stuff happen in the playoffs. So the argument isn't like, well, they're just saving them for regular season games. Like, these guys are still doing it in the postseason, and I feel like teams are taking advantage of those extra 90 feet here and there. And I guess I guess my question at that point is just, what's the answer? Do we start putting like the bad quote unquote fielding and receiving catchers at DH, since all 30 teams have them now, and then you run a guy who actually can block balls and throw guys out there at catcher, because you're not as worried about his production now that you've got that DH spot? I guess that's my question, is like, what's the answer of having, because there's got to be a balance, right? Like a good catcher versus somebody that can do it. I mean, and I know Buster Posey's and Jorge Posadas and Ivan Rodriguez's don't just fall out of the trees, but
Yadi Molina.
Yadi.
Well, so my only thought on this is, I think the game has changed a little bit. And it changes as you evolve from a high school player to a college player to a professional player, right? There were not many times in college I was preached to left and right. I ate it for breakfast and lunch and dinner. Every 90 feet you've got to earn. And we had guys, we practiced. As soon as the angle of the ball was in the dirt, we were taking off. We were taking our chances no matter what. How many guys in the big leagues actually take off when a ball angle is in the dirt? There's not that many of them, and the game is, I think, strategically different in that fact. So the art of catching changes as well. I don't really have to be as good, per se, behind the dish. As long as I keep a ball 6 to 10 feet in front of me, no one's really going to take their chance trying to take second base or take their base, depending on the player. Whereas in college ball or high school ball, everyone takes advantage of it, so you have to be better almost in those aspects.
I guess the only thing that I'm worried about with this thought process is, to me, the solution. My teeth are literally curling at the thought of me even saying this out loud. But a part of the solution to me, to fix this is the robo umps that everybody keeps talking about. Because from what I'm hearing you guys talk about is the catchers are primarily doing this in an effort to steal strikes. So if we no longer have to do that, because the robo ump, you aren't going to steal a strike from the robo ump, like it is what it is.
Then the value shifts to.
I feel like we're losing the art of catching. That's when we put this on the agenda. That was my like deep thought, because I watched it today during the Padres and Braves game, because Wilson Contreras did it the entire game, and there were some bases taken on some pitches that were in the dirt, and I just feel like we're losing the art of catching. And if you guys are telling me that it's for stealing strikes, saving runs from that aspect of it, at a sacrifice for them to be able to hit better, I'm just not sure. I guess I don't know what the answer is. Like,
I think you
still got to play the position.
Yeah, I think that would be an extreme. That feels like an extreme, response to a rather. I'm not gonna say small problem, but just like I think the robo umps would be just like that would be a big jump just to fix this, little piece, I guess. Because ultimately it's kind of coming down to, you might be losing the art of catching a little bit, but it's coming down to just kind of like personal preference and team preference. And, I think the robo brings such a that affects a lot more aspects of the game that I think a lot of people are not for.
The robo ump would change the catching back to blocking and throwing versus receiving, because at that point it doesn't matter about receiving. What's a strike is a strike, and what's a ball is a ball. It doesn't matter. Just catch the ball at that point.
Yep.
And if you can block the ball and prevent advancement, and goes back to Kenny, earn every 90 feet. If you can block it and you can throw people out. But, I think the art of catching still is stealing strikes. That's the human element of the game right now. And them stealing strikes it's an art. It is.
Yeah.
To a degree, it is. And I think that it's worked on a lot, and I saw it in our games where, when our catcher would stay low and take a good angle for the umpire to see, we would steal strikes all day long.
Sure.
But there's times when our catcher would be up on 2 feet and have bad angle with his feet and his upper body, and we would lose strikes. Yeah. So it has its plus and minuses on both, and more so it was because of how our catcher was angled with his upper body versus what he was doing with his feet and how low he was sitting, that kind of thing. He was blocking off the umpire. But I think a lot of that has to do with, age and everything, and perfecting craft and listening to coaches. But
sure.
It's a hot topic for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I totally agree with you. I think being able to receive a pitch and frame a pitch, and that's definitely part of the art of it. And that's why I say I'm on this podcast of record of saying I don't want the robo umps in the game, but when it comes to this specific issue, it seems like that would fix this potential problem of having these catchers that are focusing more on that piece of it. I guess my other thought is let me say one thing, Scotty. Actually, before you say that, because I do want to point one thing that I've mulled over in my head is that we see a lot of managers argue a lot over balls and strikes, right? Yep. What would you rather see? Would you rather see, because what's going to happen is if you go to robo umps, these catchers are not going to practice receiving anymore. So what's going to happen? You're just going to see catchers up there botch balls left and right, and they're going to be called strikes, and what are you going to be more okay with, that or the fact of these guys being on potentially one leg to help steal strikes? I could see this being a really, really bad play for Major League Baseball, and just watching it as a fan of guys just sticking balls, botching them left and right, and strikes being called because of that. You know what I mean?
I totally agree with that. I think the stance is more of just another part of that cat and mouse game that is a big part of baseball, and some people might not like it, but it kind of has a purpose versus the robo umps that affects a lot of different parts.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Scotty. Go.
No, you're good. And again, I'm on record on this podcast of saying I do not want to see robo umps in the game, and because I think, to everyone's point, as we've said here, it will have the domino effect of that one decision goes deeper than I think any of us probably know until we actually see it in a full, frame of reference. But I think where I go back to is where we're just talking about, we're putting emphasis on players and them perfecting their craft and them, being held to standards. And I think a little bit of it for me goes back to the professionality of umpires and why are those guys not being held to a standard of like physical fitness for them to be able to move and adapt with a catcher on a pitch that's up a little bit. And you've got a guy out there that is, in his 50s or 60s. I would say I'm not, trying to shame anybody's body here, but I think from a public opinion, they would say he doesn't look like he's in very good shape. And he's just, to me, there's a physical aspect to being an umpire, and it does not seem like these guys are held to that standard. And I feel like, especially right now with so much emphasis being put on umpires and their performance, the guys that you see that are doing very well are the younger and more in shape umpires that are more agile to be able to get themselves in positions to make calls. So, again, I think this goes back to a root issue that we've brought up on this podcast before, and that is, like, where is the accountability of the umpires? So,
They need to follow the NFL model where like everyone is just ripped like biceps on biceps and just busting out of their uniforms. I think that's where baseball needs.
I mean,
to
I'm
go.
just saying, like, could you let's just sit here and picture for a second. We're not a basketball podcast, but could you imagine a basketball referee that was like 300 pounds laboring up and down the court like it's church league basketball? Like, you don't see it.
No.
Like
he's just the constant cherry picker, just down at the other side, just like go.
He's like, I got the 10-second count down here, guys. You good?
Yeah. Leaning on the scorer's table every 2 seconds because he can't breathe. Yeah.
Water break, time out.
I don't know. So
I get it.
We had a good suggestion in the chat. Apparently, we need to be. Apparently, MLB needs to look into robo catchers instead of robo umps.
There you go.
Let's save the human being legs and let them hit on the offense. So I don't know. Could be worth.
Talk about getting rid of an art. I mean,
yeah. Now we only got 8 players to play the field. I love it.
Not unless
he's hanging out.
Catcher,
he's hanging out.
No, he's just gonna hang there.
Yeah, he's just gonna hang there just in case there's a play.
We should just like one of those guys that had like to shoot lasers or something from their eyes or something like that would be awesome. Or like, that'd be pretty cool.
Just put him right behind the little net that has like the squares back there for the strike zone, and just like, here's your ball, sir. Yep. Take it back, try again.
Somebody's got to throw it back to the pitcher. So
exactly.
Oh, too good.
I love it. Well,
appreciate it. That was good, boys.
Yeah, that was a good combo. We're gonna move on to our stacks bet for the week. For those of you who do not know, we wanted to add sort of a segment here with us taking some bets for the week, just to have a little friendly and competitive wager. So each week, each of us will have 50 stacks. That's $50. Kind of wanted to come up with a fun term for that. So you've got 50 stacks to spend. You can use all 50 stacks on one bet. You can make multiple bets. You can spend less than the 50 stacks. And so we're going to go through, as you heard earlier on the podcast, the first one was a big flop for most of us except for Barrick. And so we will start this week. I'm going to put, actually, since Barrick was our winner last week, I'm going to put him on the spot. And let's hear, Barrick, your stacks for the week.
All right, so what do we have totals?
Yeah, so I think you won 20. You put 25, correct, or did you put 10 on your first week?
No, I put 10.
Okay, so you carried over right now. You have a total of 70 stacks.
70. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so I'm gonna put 30.
No, he carried over. He won 20. So he's got 60. So he actually has 110 stacks.
Sorry, Barrick. You're right. Thank you, Scotty. 110.
Right. Well, then I'm going to put 40 stacks on the Padres having a losing... let's just do it. A losing record for the week. Starting tomorrow. Monday through where we're going. I'm going to put 40 on the Padres having a losing week.
Okay.
Record-wise.
I like it.
40, and that's your only bet for the week.
I'm keeping it simple.
All right, so we're gonna move to Drew. You told us you had some interesting ones, so Let's throw them out there this week.
All right. Let's see. How many do I have? Let me get that first.
So you lost 10. Yep. So you were down to 40 carryover for the week. So you have a 90 total.
All right. Going big here. Enjoy this one, fellas.
Yes, baby.
50 stacks.
Woo!
And according to Ump's scorecard, that Angel Hernandez will have greater than 90%.
Nice.
It's brave.
Oh,
it's
I love it.
And then I got one more. Hold on.
Yeah.
So I will just throw this in there while you're pulling that up. As part of,
he was terrible today too.
As part of your bet, you're going to have to take screenshots of his scorecards this week. That way we got the proof to back up the.
Wait, so you're saying all of his this week?
Well, he's only going to probably have one because he called behind the plate today.
Okay, but if he has two, you're saying for both of those.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right. What's your next one?
Let's see. Give me 10 stacks on Whit Merrifield having more than 5 hits this week.
So 5 or more.
I have thoughts on that.
All right.
Whit Merrifield, not Bobby Witt Jr., but Whit Merrifield.
Got it. All right. Is that your last one, or you
Yeah, I'm good.
More?
I'm done now.
All right. So let me ask you this. I'll go to Scotty next, but Robbie, do you have any bets this week? Or interjection, I should say. All right. Scotty.
Bueller?
Scotty, let's go.
What is that right there? Braves. So
Braves
Robbie's got
3+
Braves
games.
3 or more games this week.
How much you putting on it, buddy?
Yeah, what's the stack bet on that?
Or more than 5.
Whoa,
50 stacks. So Robbie's
he's all in for the
all
Braves.
his money.
New week, huh?
He's a different kind of breed.
All right, so
new team, new week. Who dis?
Yeah, so 3+ wins. So if they have 3, Robbie, you keep your $50 or 50 stacks. But if they have less than, you give it all back. You start with 50 next week. And
Braves win 3 or more games.
All right, Scotty, we'll move to you for your stack bet for the week.
All right, so I kind of hinted at mine a little bit earlier. So last week, I kept it Braves focused since we are a little bit of a Braves biased podcast.
I was debating on that,
since
but I saw an Instagram bit. I was debating on that.
Since we are also Orioles biased, I'm gonna jump on the other side here. But I gotta say, looking at that schedule, does not feel very good this week.
Wait, so I don't get 50? I don't get 50 more bucks?
No. Absolutely.
You did not play last week, Rob.
No.
You did not play last week.
Also, like how delayed that was, just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Do I get 50?
We seem to be experiencing a technical issue on Robbie's microphone at the current moment.
I don't know. Is it his microphone or is it a technical issue with Robbie? I'm not sure which one it is.
This
all right,
furthermore proves that we're in a simulation. So, so I don't like the Orioles schedule this week. So I am putting up. So just to clarify as well, I have 75. I have 75 stacks, right? So
that's correct.
Okay, I'm going 30 stacks. The Orioles lose. I'm trying 5 or more games this week.
Well, we're no longer friends.
I was trying to do the math in my head.
Oh, wow!
Wow! So they're gonna go 2 and 5.
2 and 5 at best. 2 and 5 at best.
Wow. Okay.
So that's 30 stacks on that.
I'm technically an issue.
You might as well just light those 30 stacks on fire. But
how many games aren't those games at home? How many? The Yankees games are at home, right?
They're all at home.
They're all at home.
All 7 of them.
They're 9 and 7 at home. Go ahead though.
Hey, they haven't played
after this week.
After this week, they won't be.
After this week.
Trying to help you out, Barry.
Then I'm also going to put another 25 stacks this week that Aaron Judge has 4 or more home runs this week.
Ooh.
All right, so just put more salt in that wound. Got it. All right.
All right, so is that all you got, Scotty, for the week?
Yep. So that's
So
55
you're saying,
total.
Plenty.
Right?
That's
so you're
plenty.
saying that the
Yeah.
left field wall being backed up is not going to give Aaron Judge a problem.
Nope.
Gosh, man.
Not a bit. Straight center
All right.
field.
And
Oh,
right center.
I love
Straight
this.
straight to the Baltimore Ivy.
I know. I kind of want to throw some extra stacks on this, but we'll see. All right, so for me, I've got 3 bets, but I'm going to add a 4th after hearing Scotty because I want to jump on the Orioles train too as well. So, I only
I don't show up next week. You got to know why.
So I only have 50 stacks for the week.
4
so
or more.
What I am going to do is I'm going to put 20 stacks on the Braves, who have 6 road games this week. I'm going to put 20 stacks that they will wear the blue jerseys more than 1 game. So they're going to wear them at least 2 games this week on the road. That'll be 20 stacks for my first bet. Second bet, I've got 20 stacks on tomorrow's game. The Braves are plus 114 for tomorrow. And then I'm going to split this last one up. 5 stacks that the Dodgers tomorrow score under 5 runs against our North Carolina brethren, Madison Bumgarner on the bump. That's
Okay.
minus 110. And then I'm going to also echo Scotty's bet. 5
Screw you.
stacks that Aaron Judge has 4+ home runs
Oh my gosh.
this week.
I hope Aaron Judge
That's a
doesn't
dumb-
play. He's
that's
going to
a
get
dumb
COVID,
bet.
baby. COVID for Aaron Judge.
So, for all of you
Hey.
in YouTube who
I'm-
said to go against
about ready to-
Kenny's bets, please do.
I'm about to add one. I want to add one more than if you guys are going to. I mean, we're going to jump on this Orioles train. Let's do this then, right? Give me here you go. Give me 10 that the Orioles win 3+ this week.
Ooh, all right.
We'll go the opposite way.
I like it.
Hey,
All right.
the Aaron Judge home runs is not a direct insult to the Orioles. They also have
Just
a
their pitching
3-game home
stats.
series at the end of this week against the White Sox, who he took deep twice this week. So, like, and he's at home. So look, this is not Orioles hate. This is just it is what
Well,
it is, and we got to have some hot takes.
I'm gonna throw my 5 stacks. My 5 stacks are gonna be actually against the Orioles. I'm gonna actually change that. 5 stacks, 3+ home runs against the Orioles in their 4-game set.
Got it.
You heard it here first.
Got it.
Wow.
But
Oh, man, I'm going to be so locked in on the games this week.
I love it. Gents, thanks for joining. We're going to break off here in a second. I will say, I'll add this in there. We're going to do Players of the Week, both the pitcher and hitter next week. So tune in for that. Hit us up on social media, and we will see what you have for next week. Thanks for joining.
Bye, Robbie.
Appreciate you
Bye,
guys.
Robbie.
See you, Robs.
Yes, Scotty, thanks, man. Drew, Barrick, Robbie.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ryan, who couldn't make it tonight. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.